All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another KC Sports Report live stream. Today, we're going to break down and preview the upcoming Week 7 matchup between the Chiefs and the Titans. That's going to be a really good game. But before we get into that, I'm going to wait for some people to flood in here, give their thoughts. Stream, I've kind of been avoiding your comments over the past couple weeks. I've been really, really busy with school and work and all that fun stuff. But more Chiefs content's on the way. Just keep coming by on these Thursday nights. We do the live streams. And then obviously Sunday we do the post-game show and break down how games go. And this week is not going to be an exception to that. And I think we're going to see a really interesting game. Now, I, for one, am pretty concerned about the Titans. Now, there's a lot of ways you can go about it because, in one aspect, the Titans aren't great, but in another aspect, they're really good, which, is going to present some challenges for the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. I think that, in the second half of that Washington game, the Chiefs corrected a lot of things and they got better. But I want to see how that translates against a team in the Tennessee Titans that just beat the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills beat us by 2 touchdowns and more. So I want to see how this Chiefs team plays on the road against a Titans team that is going to run the ball. I mean, let's be honest here. Derrick Henry is having one of the best stretches a running back has ever had. And that's not going to change against this defense. This defense is not going to shut him down. I know I kind of just spoiled the topic in the video title for today. I do not believe that we can stop Derrick Henry. I'm going to get into that later on into the video and explain why I believe this and also give you a reason as to how the Chiefs can still win. Because I think that, even though the Chiefs might not be able to stop Derrick Henry, they got a very good shot to win this game. And I truly believe that. But with that being said, guys, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe for more of the best Chiefs content on YouTube. And also share this video out with your friends. Hit that bell notification button so you're here for every new video. I will say, for the 9 people that are in here right now, we got some special stuff coming in terms of a website, and a lot of new content's going to be coming, not just from me. We're going to have a lot of different people write articles, publish their thoughts, as well as making videos. That's kind of what I've been really driving at recently, is giving people a platform to do kind of what I've done. And I'll also be doing stuff on the website as well. But once I kind of get that completely squared away and finished, I'll announce it and I'll drop a link and you guys can go check out the website. But, before we get into the preview of this game, I wanted to go over the injury report because, the injuries in this game are pretty important because, both teams have a pretty significant injury history, at least in the past couple weeks. But I do want to say Jody Fortson isn't going to play in this game. He's on IR because he tore his Achilles. Joe Tooney actually hasn't practiced all week with the hand. Chris Jones has been limited, but the expectation is that he is going to play this Sunday, and that's going to present a really good scenario for the Chiefs, which we are going to get into later in this video. I saw something that Anthony Hitchens has been ruled out for Sunday with a tricep injury. I'm not 100% sure if he's been completely ruled out yet, but he has not practiced at all this week. So I think that, even though Joe Tooney hasn't practiced at all this week, we've seen him over the past couple weeks. He's broken his hand and he's still been able to play and be fine. So I do think we see Joe Tooney in this game. I do think we see Chris Jones. Travis Kelce's been limited in practice all week with a neck. I think he's going to play. Tyrann Mathieu has a thumb/toe injury. He's been limited, but he's going to play. Jerron Reed's got a back injury. He was a full participant today. He's going to play. Travarius Ward's been limited all week. He's had that quad. He's probably going to play in this game, but you never know. He could sit it out as well because he hasn't played for the last couple weeks. Trey Smith has got an ankle injury, but he was a full participant today. He's going to play. Blake Bell has been a full participant in practice. Orlando Brown's been dealing with the groin injury, but he's been a full participant. Colin Saunders has been a full participant with an ankle injury, and L'Jarius Sneed has also been a full participant with a wrist injury. Now, getting over to the Titans injury report, because there's a lot of guys on here. I'm gonna go over the important ones because there's some guys that, quite frankly, I don't know, you won't know, that aren't really important to this game. But AJ Brown has not been practicing this week because he got sick. I'm seeing a lot of comments that I guess he went to Chipotle or something like that and got like food poisoning, which sucks. I mean, I've had food poisoning before. It's not fun at all. And it's kind of remarkable. I think that he played a portion of last week's game against the Bills, but I think that he's probably going to play, but I could also see if he doesn't get better by Saturday, he's not going to play in this game. Julio Jones has not practiced. I guess he practiced today, but he's had what has he had? A hamstring injury. I think that, he might play. He's going to be limited when he does play, though, so don't expect Julio Jones to have this monstrous impact in this game. Bud Dupree's been limited in practice with a knee injury. Actually, Derrick Henry he didn't practice today due to a non-injury related rest. So I guess they're just resting him up for this weekend, which I don't know if that's a good idea because he doesn't need any more rest. Like, this dude's been 2,000 yards this season. I think he's on pace for like 2,200, which it's incredible. I mean, Derrick Henry's doing stuff at the running back position that we've really never seen before. He has been one of the most dominant rushers in NFL history. This dude's got 2,000 last year. He's on pace for 2,000 this year, and he's just been a monster ever since the Chiefs faced him in 2019. He kind of turned that corner, and he's just been insane. And I think that to answer some of your questions about Derrick Henry, I think that Derrick Henry is going to get his yards. In 2019, at least in the regular season when we faced off against Derrick Henry, he got his yards and he kind of made us look silly on a couple times. But in the playoffs, we held him to 69 yards, which, let's be honest, no one really expected that coming into that game, but we needed it. And clearly they were able to stop Derrick Henry and limit his damage. And I think that, this year, with him being as dominant as he is, I don't think the expectation is to shut down Derrick Henry. I don't think that's optimistic or realistic. It'd be optimistic of me to say that we would shut him down, but I just can't see it. I think that in a perfect world, Derrick Henry would be held to under 100 yards, but unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. And I think that Derrick Henry could easily have 150 rush yards, maybe 200. Our rush defense is soft. Anthony Hitchens, who's pretty big in stopping the run, he's not going to play in this game. So I think that, we're going to have to see what Nick Bolton and Willie Gay Jr. can do, because if they can't shut it down, we're going to have a long day. And, there are keys to stopping Derrick Henry. And what you got to do is you got to stack the box. You got to hope that your defensive tackles and your linemen can plug up some of those gaps, because once Derrick Henry gets past the front four and gets into the linebacking core, you're putting a lot of pressure on those linebackers to tackle Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry's bigger than those linebackers. And if he gets to the secondary, you got to take him out. You got to take him out by his ankles. And I don't trust a lot of the guys in the secondary to take down Derrick Henry. I just don't. And they've been preaching all week to take out the motor, or maybe it's take out the engine. Derrick Henry is the engine of the Tennessee Titans. That is how they run. And I think that, we've seen in the past they've been able to do it. I don't think that's going to be the case in this game. I think that they are going to let Derrick Henry have a pretty good game, but overall, I don't think it's going to be enough to win. I for sure could be wrong, because if we see the way this Chiefs defense played in the first half, or the way this Chiefs offense played in the first half against this Titans defense, this game, they're not going to win. The Titans can put up points, and that all runs through Derrick Henry. And I think that, the Chiefs are going to have to get a lead, because if they don't get a lead, they're going to give it to Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry is just going to be able to do what he does and milk the clock. Derrick Henry can easily rush for 150 yards, maybe more, if we do not get a lead and force Ryan Tannehill to throw. Because from what I've seen this year, Ryan Tannehill is not the guy that he was. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the play calling. It hasn't been great. But at the same time, Ryan Tannehill has never been a guy that you trust to go out there and win you the game. And that's not really what the Tennessee Titans do. The Tennessee Titans are known for giving the ball to the best running back on the planet and letting him go to work. And so if you can If you can stack the box and plug up those holes and stop Derrick Henry, or at least limit him, you're going to have a great shot to win this game, because I truly believe that, when it comes to stopping a guy this big and powerful as Derrick Henry, you got to aim low. You got to take him out by his knees or lower, because if you go for his waist or you go for his shoulders, he's not going down. Derrick Henry is quite literally a man amongst boys. You cannot try to tackle him like a normal running back. If you try that, he's going to beat you. That's just kind of what we have seen over the past. And Derrick Henry has played a lot of games in his career, and he's made the best athletes on the planet look like amateurs. And that is really difficult to do. We've seen that on the Chiefs side. You got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Those guys make opposing teams' defenses look rather silly. Derrick Henry is that guy. The offense of Tennessee runs through him. And I think that, the game plan that Spags has got to be drawing up is, hey, stop Derrick Henry at all costs and let Ryan Tannehill try to beat you. Because I don't believe Ryan Tannehill can beat you. I just don't. And I think that, if Ryan Tannehill does beat us, it is what it is. But I just don't have that trust. And I don't think that a lot of people in Titans, is it Titans Country is their fan base's nickname? I don't think a lot of Titans fans have trust in Ryan Tannehill either. And I think that's just because Ryan Tannehill has never been an elite option. He's solid, but he's not a guy, like I said earlier, he's not a guy that's going to go out there and win you a game. He just can't do it. But guys, get your questions in. I will try to answer those to the best of my ability. I actually want to check that Broncos score, because I saw that it's 10-0 Browns over the Broncos at halftime. So if everything holds true there and the Browns are able to beat the Broncos, we're third place in the AFC West. We're moving up there. But honestly, I think that, after this week, depending on what the Raiders and the Chargers do, Chiefs could have themselves a very good opportunity to get back within striking distance of the AFC West. Now, granted, they are still at the bottom looking up. But like I said, if you can get a couple of these teams to lose, you're going to have a shot. But getting back to this game at hand, I wanted to talk about the Titans defense, because coming into this season, I thought this Titans defense was going to be really, really bad. And I almost laughed at Titans fans because they're like, oh, we're going to be able to dethrone the Chiefs and make the Super Bowl. And I was like, well, not with that defense, when in reality, our defense is significantly worse. But, our defense has at least shown some improvement over the last week in the adjustments that they've made. That's a great point. I'm going to get to it in a minute. But the adjustments they've made with swapping out Dan Sorensen for Juan Thornhill, letting Willie Gay play over Ben Neiman. It's just the simple stuff that you would think Steve Spagnuolo could kind of get down. They weren't really doing that. So now that they are, we've seen a better defensive product. But speaking of adjustments, Chris Jones is rumored to be playing defensive tackle this week, which is really, really important, because, with Derrick Henry, you need those big run stuffers. You need those guys that can stop the run and plug up those holes. And Chris Jones, the experiment at defensive end has never worked. I think that it's really unfair for Chris Jones to have to expect him to go out there on the edge, a position in which he's never played before, and be the same dominant player that he is on the interior defensive line. It's just that's not a good expectation to have. He's not that guy. And I think that, once the Chiefs realize that, like I think they did this week, you're going to move him back inside. He's going to be able to get interior pressure. The Chiefs can actually let Mike Dana and let Frank Clark, I guess you could say, be your two edges if Derek Nottie and Chris Jones, or Chris Jones and Jerron Reed are forcing pressure up the middle. I think that, Jerron Reed's been rather disappointing this season, to say the least. But I think that, maybe throwing Chris Jones in there is going to put a double team on Chris Jones. Jerron Reed's not going to have that much of an issue getting pressure. And I think that, Jerron Reed has kind of been meh this year. But at the same time, you can look at it this way. Opposing teams didn't double Chris Jones on the edge because he's not quick enough. He wasn't getting to the quarterback as efficiently. So it didn't make sense to shift your offensive line and double Chris Jones when he's really not been that good on the edge. But when you move him back inside, a position in which he's shown he can dominate at, you're going to have two guys in the middle that can do their job. And I think that's really big for this defense. And I'm really excited to see what we see because, if Chris Jones moving back inside leads to this team getting off the field at least a couple more times, or he can force pressure up the middle, or at least draw some attention away from Jaron Reed, or draw some attention away from Frank Clark, that's big. As much as I've bashed on this Chiefs defensive line this year, and trust me, they've been pretty bad. They have at least put Chris Jones back at a position in which I believe that he can dominate at. But speaking of defensive linemen and edge rushers specifically, earlier this week, Whitney Merciless was the name of conversation. And unfortunately, he decided to sign with the Green Bay Packers. So the Chiefs lost out on the Whitney Merciless sweepstakes. But I think that, Whitney Merciless was never going to be a guy that you brought in and he was going to get 10 sacks and lead this Chiefs defense and just be a a TJ Watt or Joey Bosa type dominant edge threat that a lot of Chiefs fans kind of thought he was going to be. Whitney Merciless is like 32, 31 years old. He's getting towards the end of his career. It just didn't make sense to believe that he was going to come in and be some god level edge rusher. But I think that, he did offer something that this Chiefs team doesn't currently have, and that's a solid, reliable, producing edge. I love Mike Dana. I think that for a 5th-round draft pick, he's been pretty damn good. But the problem is Mike Dana is not able to thrive in a starting role. I think that, if he came off the bench, he'd be great as a bench piece. But Mike Dana should not be leading the Chiefs in sacks. And because he's only got 3. I would say that a couple of those sacks kind of came towards the end of the game. The sacks are kind of deceiving because I feel like he hasn't been getting that much pressure. And, the sacks, sure, he's got 3 of them. But if you've actually watched a game, he's not getting home and he's kind of lucked into those sacks. But don't get me wrong. I mean, he's fumbled he forced that fumble last week that Snead picked up, which don't get me wrong. That's a very big play. And that's something, quite frankly, we needed. But I think that anybody coming away thinking that Mike Dana is this dominant edge rusher threat, I just don't see it. I don't believe in it. I think that the Chiefs, if the offseason was tomorrow, they would probably draft an edge rusher. They'd probably bring in a couple. I think that a lot of things are going to change defensively next year. But this is the team that we currently have. Now, a lot of people think that, maybe the Chiefs are going to make a move at the trade deadline and acquire somebody. I think that right now you got to just stick with the team that we currently have. Let's be honest, guys. Even though this Chiefs team has underperformed all season long, this same team was able to go to the Super Bowl last year. Now, granted, a lot of the AFC teams have gotten better, and the Browns, the Bills, and even the Titans have gotten better. But I think that, this team did get better last year by adding some personnel, and we just haven't seen it so far. I think that, coming into this season, I was one of those guys that was like, this could be the best Chiefs team we've ever seen. And I kind of thought that because, you added Jaron Reed, you brought in Mike Hughes. You didn't really lose anybody. That's kind of where I've been all offseason. I didn't think that they lost anybody significant. And so 2 last year, I guess it was 14-2 because there's only 16 games last year. But for a team that went 14-2 and chose to lose that final game, I think that I pretty much had every reason to believe that they were going to be better, if not the same as last year. But, I think that I've kind of had the mentality over the past couple years. When you look at 2019 and 2020, what are the big things that stick out to you? What is the big difference? Because obviously in 2020, they were more dominant. They ran through teams in the NFL. And quite frankly, they made it look easy. But in 2019, and this is kind of what I believe with all teams, the teams that face the most adversity win championships. That's just what it is. Last year, the Chiefs really didn't face any adversity. And once they got to that point where they actually did face adversity in the Super Bowl, they weren't able to handle it. And I think that the Bucs handled a lot of adversity last year, and it got them to where they were. But in 2019, the Chiefs, Mahomes got injured. You had injuries all along the defensive line. The defense wasn't clicking yet. That was Spag's first year in the system. A lot of things were still trying to get worked out, and the Chiefs were able to figure them out, handling the adversity, and they were a better team because of it. I think that this year we've seen it so far. The Chiefs have had their fair share of adversity. I mean, they went 3-3 in their first 6. I don't think you could ask it. Not only you could ask a Chiefs fan, you could ask any NFL fan around the league if you thought this Chiefs team was going to be 3-3 through the first 6, what they would probably tell you. No one expected that. It wasn't a plausible outcome because the Chiefs have been this dominant threat in the AFC that has been able to run over everybody. And I think that, even though this team isn't as dominant as they've been in years prior, they're still getting better, guys. I mean, 2019, they weren't really in stride till like week 9 or 10. They weren't this bad, so to speak, but at one point they were 6-4 and the season was kind of on the line. I remember that game in Mexico City against the Chargers. After that point, and they came out in the second half and really kind of shut the Chargers down. They went on to not lose the game the rest of the season. I don't want to say that, this Washington game was the same thing, but I think that Washington game was so important because, in the first half, they turned the ball over 3 more times. They didn't really correct anything offensively. And I think that kind of led to some frustration. That led to Mahomes throwing that really bad interception. That interception. Oh, the offense producing as poorly as it did in the first half. I think it was kind of a wake-up call that, hey, we need to just calm down. This Chiefs team has the talent. And I think that, the offense has been under the impression that we have got to score on every single drive. And if we don't, this defense is going to let us down. I think that, what we saw in the first half of that Washington game was the defense came up clutch. The defense actually was able to hold Washington to 13 points. And they ended up pitching a shutout in the second half. But you can win a game by only giving up 13 points in the first half. That is very manageable. The Chiefs have been scoring like 14 to 21 points in the first half anyway. Like, I believe that, once they kind of realize that, all right, we're just going to have to trust the defense. Whether they let us down or not, we've just got to do our thing and do it to the best of our ability. But you cannot be worried about your defense letting you down when your goal should be to just go score a touchdown. And if you don't, you don't. But the mentality's got to be, all right, we got another drive. We got another play. We can do it next time. But I feel like, Patrick Mahomes has been trying to force stuff because, this defense is going to give up another touchdown or we just can't get back into this hole. So he's been throwing the picks. He's been over anxious. The offense, even though they've been, I guess, historically on pace for being the most efficient or something like that, I think that most Chiefs fans would admit that this offense really hasn't been the same. And part of that is probably due to the turnovers. They've got 14 turnovers, which it's most in the NFL. But I think that, in the second half, they really settled down and we needed to see that. And I think that could, but this Titans team is going to be a challenge. I think that anybody saying that it's not, you haven't really watched football this year because the Titans, they're currently at 4-2. This game could mean something in terms of future seeding down the line. We don't really know. But also the Chiefs cannot afford to keep losing games and going under 500. Right now, they're 3-3. If you win this game, you're 4-3. If you lose it, you're 3-4. And you play the Giants next week. But after these 2 games, I'd really like to be 5-3. That would be the goal. If you can go 5-3, then I think you play the Raiders and then the Packers. You have a tough schedule, but it's just getting through these teams. When the Titans, I read the injury report, they're really banged up. Like, the Titans have a lot of injuries, and specifically on the back corners last week with the rookie draft pick in Caleb Farley. And I believe the other one was Borders, I think his name was. I can't really remember, but they lost both their starting corners. And, it's a really bad week to lose your corners when Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense are coming into town. But I think the mindset has got to be, we got to attack that secondary. We got to do it by, taking the little stuff, at least in the beginning. And once that Titans defense kind of gets used to you taking the small stuff, decide to just go out there and try to hit the Titans in the mouth right away by trying to burn those safeties or burn those corners that, let's be honest, those corners are not going to be very good. They could be coming off the street. I don't really know where they're even going to get the corners. But, right away, the Titans didn't really have a good defense to begin with. specifically in the secondary, those injuries are not going to help. I think that, you know, if there's ever a time for the Chiefs to play this Titans team, it's with all their injuries because, you might not get this shot again. And from what I saw, Taylor Lewan, their left tackle, suffered a head injury against the Bills. From what I've seen, I think that he might play, but I think that he also got like a concussion or he's in concussion protocol. So he may or may not play. But regardless, the Chiefs are going to have to find a way to force pressure. Now, I don't think that forcing pressure is as important as stopping the run. But if you can't force pressure, Tannehill is just going to sit back there and check it down because, a check down historically goes for more than a running play, but you also don't have Derrick Henry running the ball historically. So I think that Derrick Henry is going to get his opportunity to do what he does. And it's really going to be interesting to see how this Chiefs defense handles that because, if they just kind of lay down and let the Titans walk all over them, I'm going to be disappointed. I want to see this Chiefs team, and specifically on defense, I want to see them adjust, and I want to see them attack this Titans offense, even if it doesn't result in a good product. I just want to see how this Chiefs team can attack them. If they play their best and still give up 150 yards to Derrick Henry, fine. Derrick Henry's been doing that to the best defenses. Buffalo's like what? The best defense in the league, or at least top 5? Derrick Henry molested them last week. Sorry for the lack of appropriate terms, but yeah, Derrick Henry, he abused them last week. And I think that, it wouldn't be surprising if he did the same thing to us, but I think that we're just going to have to find a way to kill the motor, kill the engine. And if they can at least hold him to like 100 yards or 150, it's all going to come down to can he get in the end zone. If he can get in the end zone like 3 or 4 times like he did last week, we're going to be in for a problem. We're going to have a problem. But if the Chiefs defense can hold firm and actually step up in the red zone and at least get off the field a couple times, with that Titans banged up defense and the secondary being as bad as it is, I think that Patrick Mahomes can easily put up 300 yards, 4 touchdowns at the bare minimum. And I think this offense could put up 35 to 42 points. And I don't think that's a stretch. I think that if you put up 31 points against Washington's defense that, let's be honest, they haven't been great this year, but they've got a lot more talent on the field than the Titans currently do. I think that, as long as you can keep Derrick Henry out of the end zone, you're going to have a chance to win this game. And I think that, if Patrick Mahomes can kind of just calm down and not turn the ball over, this offense is going to be fine. I think that, if they can stop turning the ball over, and it's much easier said than done, but if they can stop turning the ball over, this team is, and I've said this on Twitter before, which, as it says down there, go follow the show on Twitter. That's at KC Sports Report. I firmly believe the Chiefs are capable of beating anybody, but at the same time, they're also capable to lose to anybody. It's just kind of a double-edged sword, and I think that, obviously the Chiefs have the talent to beat anybody, but they also can underperform, not take their competition seriously, and lose a game. And I think that, the mindset last year was kind of just show up and do your thing, and you're going to win the game because you're just that much better. You don't have that luxury this year. They're not that good. Okay, they're good, but they're not good enough to come into a game underprepared, underestimating their competition, and expect to just roll over them. It's not going to happen. Teams have gotten better. Chiefs have gotten worse at taking their competition seriously. And I think that if you come into that game with the mindset of, oh, Derrick Henry's we're gonna hold him to under 100 yards, or maybe they don't trust Ryan Tannehill, so they just completely neglect him. Ryan Tannehill is still a quarterback in the National Football League. He can beat you. Even though I don't have the most confidence in him, I still think that, if they don't take the Titans seriously, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get really ugly because they have a lot of talent on offense. And I think that defensively, they're still capable of getting pressure and they're still capable of getting a few stops with or without corners. They're still going to be able to get something in terms of a stop here or there. And it's going to be difficult for the Chiefs, but that's only if they underestimate their competition, which I think is a pretty safe bet going off the Chiefs' track history. But we'll see. I do want to get to some of your questions because this one kind of stuck out to me. This one says 150 yards and we lose. I don't think so. I think you can let Derrick Henry rush for 150 because, the Chiefs have shown that, we don't even really need to win the time of possession battle in order to win. There's been a lot of games in which, opposing teams have rushed the ball a lot, and we just haven't been able to get a lot of time. But, in the time that we have had, they score. And I think that, for 150, and we can still win this game. Now, it's obviously going to be more difficult, but I think that 150 yards, I think he can still win that game. Now, if he gets up to 200 yards, we're going to have a problem. But, 150 yards for Derrick Henry is me assuming that they hold Ryan Tannehill to under 200. That's just kind of what I'm assuming. But, maybe he gets held to like 150, 170 because I don't believe that they're going to give Ryan Tannehill a lot of opportunities in this game. I think this is a smash mouth football game in which they say, hey, our best player versus your worst players, their defense. Our best player in Derrick Henry versus the Chiefs defense that is 31st in the league and has had problems stopping the run all year. That's my mindset if I'm the Titans head coach, and I think that they're probably going to try that. But hopefully Andy Reid and Spags will have them prepared, because if they're prepared, I think that they're able to limit the damage. But if they're not, it's going to get ugly. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Let's see. I will be in shock if Derrick Henry doesn't get at least 200 yards against this trash defense. 200 yards. I wouldn't be shocked if he got 200, but I wouldn't be not shocked if he didn't get 200, because 200 yards is a lot, guys. Like, if he's getting 200 yards, he's getting 35, 40 carries probably, maybe more. Yeah, I think 200 yards, if he gets 200 yards, we're going to be in some trouble. But low-key put Thornhill and Tyron in the safety and have Sorensen play offensive linebacker or outside linebacker and face the flex. Yeah, I've always said put Sorensen in a linebacker role because he's terrible in coverage, but, he actually is pretty good at getting to the passer. And he can force something in terms of turnovers when he's not having to drop back in coverage, when he can kind of just play that robber role, which hopefully Spags realizes, but you never know. You never know. Let's see. Who stops Julio? First of all, I think Julio might stop Julio. I don't know if he's going to play in this game. And if he does, he's not going to be fully healthy. And I think you put Tyron on Julio. Maybe you put Snead on him. Actually, see, that's tough because the Titans have a lot of good offensive weapons with A.J. Brown, with Julio Jones. I think that maybe you put Tyron on Julio, but at the same time, A.J. Brown's almost more of a threat than Julio Jones. And I don't have any problem saying that. I don't have a problem saying that when A.J. Brown's just been that good. Do you think Josh Gordon plays more this week? I'd like to say that's a true statement, and I'd like to see him play more. But at the same time, like, it's really rough to put a player in which hasn't been in this offense's system that long. Like, he's only been here for a couple weeks, guys. So Josh Gordon not playing a lot last week, even though he played some against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. I do think that, Josh Gordon will play a couple more times or get a couple more snaps in this game, but I don't think that he's going to get like so many snaps that he's like noticeable. Like, he's just making catches out of nowhere and he's going for 80 to 100 yards. I don't think that's going to happen, but I can see him playing and getting a couple catches and just helping this offense move smoothly. Let's see. We've done great in the past, stopping Derrick Henry, holding him to less than 200 yards. Yeah, I mean, again, Derrick Henry is really, really difficult because he's that good. But I think if he gets 200 yards, that's the problem with the Chiefs. I fully am aware that Derrick Henry is going to get his yards, but that's a lot. Like, that is so many yards, like 200 yards rushing. And I see LA Originals in here. LA Original would know a thing or two about bad rush defense. because the Chargers, I think, are the worst rush defense in the league. But yeah, 200 yards to Derrick Henry. At that point, I don't think you can really win because you can't give the Titans that much of an advantage of letting their best player rush for 200 yards. Like I said, I don't think that Ryan Tannehill is going to throw for anything special. But if Ryan Tannehill threw for 300 yards, all right, he's a quarterback. He's got a lot of offensive weapons. I understand that. But if you let Derrick Henry just run it up the gut 200 yards, I think that's inexcusable. I do not think you can let that happen. And if it does happen, some heads might have to roll because, like I said, I think 100 to 150, that's manageable. You can deal with that. 200 yards is inexcusable. I think that's you can't win a game if Derrick Henry goes for 200. But I also think that, him going for 200, I don't really know what he did against the Bills. Let me check that really quickly. I don't think that's very likely, but I mean, who knows? Browns over the Broncos though in the third quarter. We need the Browns to win that game. But I'm gonna check Derrick Henry's game against the Bills because I watched part of it and he looked incredible. Against Buffalo, he had 20 attempts for 143, averaging 7.2 yards a carry, and he got 3 touchdowns to match. And now looking at it, he has put up over 100 yards in every single game except for the first week of the season against Arizona. But against Seattle, 182. Against Indiana, 113. Against the Jets, 157. Against the Jags, 130. And last week, 143. But yeah, Derrick Henry's going to get his yards. It's just going to be a matter of, can the Chiefs limit the damage? And that's kind of been my opinion on Derrick Henry for a long time now. In fact, if anyone has a lot of time on their hands, there was a video that I made back in 2019. It was during the playoffs. It was before the AFC Championship game. I was like, I believe that we can stop Derrick Henry. And I think that the way that they were going to do it is you got to solely commit to stopping the run. That's all, LA. That's just all. Yeah. You got to slowly commit to stopping the run. If they just decide to drop their guys back into coverage and not stack the box, Derrick Henry is punishing these guys when the box is full. If you don't stack the box against Derrick Henry, he legitimately could rush for 400 yards. Like, you've got to find a way to put more personnel in a position to run downhill and stop him, because that's inexcusable. Let's see. And they still should have lost that. Yeah, the Titans didn't really play great last week. Now, they did enough on offense to beat the Bills, but I mean, they didn't play a great game. And it came down to the wire. And if Josh Allen is just able to convert that and he doesn't slip, which, let's be honest here, if Josh Allen doesn't slip, he's getting that. But unfortunately, I guess not unfortunately, I'm happy that the Titans beat the Bills because we kind of needed the Bills to lose. But we're just got to see how it goes, Chiefs Kingdom. There's a lot of interesting aspects of this game. But I think that, looking at it from a perspective of what they've got to do to win, I think that, obviously stack the box, try to take out Derrick Henry a little bit. But the big thing in this game, and I think that it's really going to be a test, is can they stop turning the ball over? If Patrick Mahomes can limit the turnovers and he doesn't throw an interception or they don't fumble the ball and they play a clean brand of football, they're going to win. In the past couple games, I know LA's in here. If we haven't turned the ball over at a league worst this year, a lot of these games we would not have lost. We wouldn't have lost that Ravens game. You would have kicked a field goal, or you would have won. You wouldn't have lost to the Chargers. Sorry, LA. We wouldn't have lost to you if we didn't turn the ball over 3 times. And against the Bills, you had 4 turnovers, I believe, like a couple interceptions, a fumble or 2. Like, there's a lot of mistakes. And once they clear that up, I think that we'll be fine. But, at what point are those not mistakes anymore and just like part of the team? like, we've never really seen turnovers being a main factor in this Chiefs team, or never been a concern, because, they didn't turn the ball over. I remember we all were pissed at LaShawn McCoy for fumbling against the Packers, and just him fumbling overall. But, we've never really had that much of an issue with turning the ball over. Patrick Mahomes has been historic at like not turning the ball over. He's had multiple seasons in which he's really, really efficient. Now, that's not the case right now. I think that he can get out of it, but it's going to be really interesting to see, um, interesting to see if we can stop turning the ball over. Yeah, we've had a lot of turnovers recently, LA. I don't think that, going back at it, I think the only game in which we haven't turned the ball over would be against the Browns. Because in week 2, we did it to lose the game. Week 3, we obviously did. I think even in week 4 against the Eagles, we did. We definitely did against the Bills, and then we did against the Washington football team. So I think that we've only turned the ball over, or not turned the ball over, rather, in one game, and it was week 1. So that's still a major problem. Like, and if they can fix that, I think that we're going to be better overall. But it's just like, what are you going to do to fix it? Like, you think that benching some guys to do something, just preaching, hey, hold on to the football, would be something, but clearly not, because this team is still fumbling at a rapid rate. It is significantly worse than anything we've seen before. But I will say, guys, we're getting to like 40 minutes. I have a shorter stream in mind for tonight, so probably 10 more minutes just answering questions, giving thoughts on this game, and I'll wrap this thing up. Like I said, really, really been busy with work and school, and a couple side projects for the channel. Like I said, there's more people in here now, so I'll go over it. The website is in the works. We're working on uploading that right now. My web developer is going over the final stuff, which, we are investing heavily in this website, but, it's going to be a place where guys can post their feedback on the Chiefs team. If we're going to have different content creators, probably a separate podcast for the website too. A bunch of new stuff's going to come, and YouTube's always going to be here because that's kind of where I got my start and everything like that. But as you guys have been all in on YouTube, which I have been in years prior, but just stuff's come up, and YouTube has always been number one. But recently it's just kind of been something that I like to do for fun and just enjoy. And it's also part of building the brand. Don't get me wrong, but there's not enough hours in the day to get it all done. So more content's going to be coming, and not even just from me. I think that that's something that I really am looking forward to about this website is you're going to get guys like Lucas Murphy, the BTKC, or Josh Fan, or more writers that I'm looking at hiring, I guess you could say, right now. They're going to give a unique, in-depth perspective, kind of like what I do on Fansided right now. But all those articles and those videos and all that fun stuff, that's going to go over to the website. So now that I've gone on a rant about that, I'm going to get back to the game. But I just know that a lot of stuff is in the works, and I'm really happy with how that's turning out, and it should be really fun. But let's answer this question. If there's one free agent you want the Chiefs to sign, would it be Olivier Vernon? I don't think Olivier Vernon's a free agent right now. I mean, maybe he is actually. And he was with Buffalo last year, I believe. And there might be a reason that he didn't get signed back because, he wasn't really great last year. He's 31 years old. Oh, he's with the Cleveland Browns right now. Oh, never mind. I don't know. Has he ever played on the Bills? Who am I thinking of? Maybe I'm thinking of Oliver for, I don't know, guys. I'm lost. I'm lost on a Thursday night. Let's see. What's it like being Justin's younger brother? So you're much cooler than Patty's little brother. Yeah. It's awesome being Justin Herbert's little brother. He's making a lot of money, which I am stealing from him. And I'm also sabotaging him because I'm a Chiefs fan and I've never really liked the Chargers. So, the playbook is now in the hands of Andy Reid. So, for people who don't know, that is complete sarcasm. I shouldn't even have to tell you that, but you never know. You never know who's going to clip this and be like, oh, this kid's an idiot. But I don't know. Me and LA just like to play around with that kind of stuff. I guess I look like Justin Herbert. Let me know if I look like Justin Herbert. Some people say I do. Some people say I don't. I kind of see it. He had a buzz cut last year in which I looked very, very similar. But I don't think I do really as much anymore. But maybe I do. Maybe I don't. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to probably wrap this up and get out of here and go do some other stuff. But I really do appreciate everybody joining me tonight. Like I said, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. We're going to have more content coming out here. We're also going to have stuff coming out on the website. I will announce that once the website's live and you can actually go look at it. But go follow me on Twitter. That's at KC Sports Report. And Instagram, that's KC_Sports Report. And with that being said, I think I'm going to leave you guys. Well, I guess I'll answer this one question and get out of here for Hayden. Who needs to step up in the defense this week? Easy answer, quick. I think that's Chris Jones. I think that if Chris Jones can't step up and be somewhat of a threat in terms of stopping the run and getting to the quarterback, it'd be pretty disappointing, especially because he's going back to a position in which he's pretty comfortable at. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate everybody for joining as always, and I'll see you Sunday following this Chiefs-Titans game, and hopefully it'll be resulting in a win. So with that being said, guys, have a great rest of your Thursday night, and thank you for listening to the KC Sports Report.